Taiyang wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the purple forest of Vera 7. The twin suns hung low in the sky, casting strange shadows between the tall trees. He carried his sample case in one hand and the scanning device in the other. This was his third year on this remote planet, studying the animals and plants that lived here. Most days, he worked alone. He liked it that way. The research outpost sat 5 miles behind him, a small metal building with solar panels and communication arrays. It was home now, even though Earth felt like a distant memory. Taiyang knelt beside a cluster of blue moss, scraping a sample into a container. The moss glowed faintly when touched. Everything on this planet seemed to glow. A sound made him stop. It was small, almost like a whimper. Taiyang stood up and listened. There it was again, coming from deeper in the forest. He shouldn't investigate. The rule book said to avoid unknown animal encounters. But the sound was so weak, so desperate. He followed it up behind a massive tree trunk. Tangled in thorn vines was a small creature. Taiyang had seen pictures of Vulcans before. They were dangerous predators, standing 7 feet tall when fully grown, with sharp claws and teeth that could tear through metal. Their fur was thick and dark, and their eyes glowed amber in the darkness. This one was just a cub, barely 2 feet long. Its paw was caught deep in the vines, and blood matted its silver fur. The cub saw Taiyang and growled, a tiny threatening sound. It tried to pull away, but the thorns dug deeper. Taiyang set down his equipment slowly. He knew this was stupid. Vulcans were known across the galaxy as isolationists. They hated outsiders. If the mother found him near her cub, she would kill him without hesitation. But the little creature was suffering, and he couldn't just walk away. "Easy there," Taiyang said softly. "I'm going to help you." The cub snapped its tiny jaws at him, but it was too weak to do much damage. Taiyang pulled out his field knife and began cutting the vines carefully. Each thorn was like a needle, curved and barbed. The cub whimpered as Taiyang worked, its amber eyes watching him with fear and pain. After 10 minutes, the last vine fell away. The cub tried to run but collapsed immediately. Its paw was torn badly, deep cuts exposing muscle. Taiyang opened his emergency medical kit. He always carried it for himself, not for alien animals. But a wound was a wound. He pulled out antiseptic spray, gauze, and bandages. The cub growled weakly as he cleaned the cuts, but it didn't fight anymore. Maybe it understood, or maybe it was too tired. Taiyang worked carefully, washing away the blood and dirt, then applying antibacterial gel. The cub's eyes never left his face. "This is going to sting," Taiyang warned, though he knew the creature couldn't understand human language. He sprayed the antiseptic. The cub yelped but held still. Taiyang wrapped the small paw in clean white bandages, making sure they were snug but not too tight. When he finished, he sat back and looked at his work. The cub looked at its bandaged paw, then at Taiyang. Something passed between them in that moment, something without words. Taiyang opened a ration bar from his pack and broke it into small pieces. He placed them near the cub, along with his water bottle. The cub sniffed the food suspiciously, but didn't eat. That was okay. Taiyang stood up slowly, gathering his equipment. He took one last look at the small creature sitting among the thorns, its paw wrapped in white cloth, and then he walked back toward his outpost. The purple forest darkened as the sun set. Taiyang kept thinking about the cub. Had he done the right thing? Vulcans probably had their own ways of healing. Maybe he had interfered with something natural. But when he closed his eyes, all he could see was the pain in those amber eyes, and he knew he would make the same choice again. That night, Taiyang sat in his outpost and filed his daily report. He didn't mention the cub. The research committee wouldn't understand. They would say he took an unnecessary risk, that he could have been killed. They wouldn't see what he saw a small creature in pain that needed help. That was the difference between humans and most other species in the galaxy. Humans couldn't ignore suffering, even when logic said they should. Taiyang ate his dinner and looked out the window at the dark forest. Somewhere out there, a small cub was learning that not all strangers meant harm. Somewhere out there, a bandage wrapped around a tiny paw was teaching a lesson that would echo across the stars. But Taiyang didn't know that yet. He was just a man who had helped an animal, nothing more. He finished his meal, turned off the lights, and went to sleep, never imagining how much that one simple act of kindness would change everything. 3 days passed before Taiyang noticed he was being watched. It started with small things. A branch breaking in the forest when no wind blew. The feeling of eyes on his back when he collected water from the stream. Footprints in the soft ground near his outpost that weren't his own. They were large, with claw marks, and they circled his building in patterns that seemed deliberate. On the 4th morning, Taiyang found gifts. A pile of strange purple fruits sat on his doorstep, arranged in a careful circle. Beside them lay 3 smooth stones carved with symbols he couldn't read. A thick animal pelt, soft and warm, hung from his door handle. Taiyang picked up one of the fruits and examined it. He had never seen this type before. It wasn't native to this region. Someone had brought it from far away. "They're watching me," Taiyang said aloud to himself. He looked at the tree line. Nothing moved, but he knew they were there. The Vulcans. They had seen what he did for the cub, and now they were observing him, trying to understand. The thought should have frightened him, but instead, he felt curious. What did they want? More gifts appeared each day. Fresh meat wrapped in large leaves. Flowers that glowed in the dark. A beautifully woven basket filled with nuts. Taiyang accepted each offering, placing his own gifts in return. He left medical supplies, food rations, and tools. They were always gone by morning, replaced with something new. It became a silent conversation between species, a language of objects and gestures. Taeyang started to recognize the watchers. He never saw them clearly, but he could tell there were at least 6 different Vulcans in the forest. He named them by their patterns. There was Shadow, who moved like smoke through the trees. There was Big One, whose footprints were twice the size of the others. And there was Curious, who ventured closest to the outpost, sometimes sitting just beyond the clearing for hours. On the 10th day, the cub returned. Taiyang was repairing his solar panels when he heard a soft chirping sound. He turned to see the small Vulcan cub sitting at the edge of the clearing, watching him. The white bandage was gone from its paw, but Taiyang could see the pink scars where the cuts had healed. The cub looked healthy, its silver fur clean and shining in the sunlight. It chirped again, a sound that seemed almost happy. "Hello there, little one," Taiyang said, smiling. "I'm glad you're okay." The cub took a hesitant step forward, then another. It walked right up to Taiyang and sniffed his hand. Its small tongue licked his fingers once, then it chirped again and bounded back toward the forest. Taiyang's heart felt warm. The simple trust from this small creature meant more than any scientific discovery he had ever made. But the cub didn't leave. It stopped at the tree line and looked back, chirping insistently. Then a larger shape emerged from the shadows. Taiyang's breath caught in his throat. An adult Vulcan stepped into the clearing, and she was magnificent. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her dark fur rippling with muscle. Amber eyes fixed on Taiyang with an intensity that made him freeze. This was the cub's mother. This was death if she chose it to be. The female Vulcan moved with grace and power, each step deliberate. The cub ran to her side, chirping and rubbing against her leg. She touched her nose to the cub's head briefly, then looked back at Taiyang. For a long moment, neither moved. Taiyang's hand was near his belt, where he kept a small pistol, but he knew it would be useless against a creature like this. If she wanted him dead, he was dead. Then the Vulcan did something unexpected. She walked forward slowly, stopping 10 feet away from Taiyang. She turned her body, showing him her shoulder. Even from this distance, Taiyang could see the wound. It was old, maybe several months, and it had never healed properly. The fur around it was matted with dried blood and pus. The flesh looked swollen and infected. She must have been in constant pain, yet she stood there without showing weakness. The Vulcan reached to a pouch hanging from a vine around her neck. She pulled out a small translator device, the kind that merchants used in trading posts. Her clawed finger pressed a button, and a mechanical voice spoke. "Help, please." The words were halting, translated from her own language into basic human speech. "Like small one, help." Taiyang's mind raced. This was dangerous beyond measure. The cub had been small, easy to control if needed. This adult could kill him with one swipe of her paw. But she had come here asking, not demanding. She had seen what he did for her child, and she was trusting him with her own life. How could he refuse? "I'll help," Taiyang said, nodding slowly. "But I need to get my medical supplies. Stay here." He walked backward to his outpost, never taking his eyes off the Vulcan. She stood perfectly still, watching him with those intelligent amber eyes. Taiyang grabbed his largest medical kit, the one with equipment for serious injuries. His hand shook as he walked back to the clearing. This was insane. This went against every safety protocol. But he had made a choice, and he would see it through. The Vulcan lowered herself to the ground as Taiyang approached. The cub sat nearby, watching with curiosity. Taiyang knelt beside the massive creature, his head barely reaching her shoulder. He examined the wound carefully. It was badly infected, probably from bacteria her immune system couldn't fight. Without treatment, it would eventually kill her. Taiyang opened his kit and pulled out antiseptic, antibiotics, and surgical tools. This would take time, and it would hurt. He looked into the Vulcan's eyes and saw understanding there. She knew it would hurt, but she also knew he was her only hope. Taiyang took a deep breath and began to work. Taiyang woke to the sound of breathing. Not one breath, but many. A chorus of living creatures surrounding his outpost. He sat up in bed, his heart pounding, and looked out the window. The rising suns illuminated a sight that made him question if he was still dreaming. Dozens of Vulcans sat in the clearing, waiting silently. Some were massive warriors with scars crossing their fur like maps of old battles. Others were smaller, females cradling cubs or supporting injured companions. They filled the space around his outpost, patient and still, their amber eyes glowing in the dawn light. "Oh no," Taiyang whispered. He pulled on his clothes and stepped outside, his legs feeling weak. The Vulcans didn't move, but they all watched him. He counted quickly. 20, 30, maybe 40 of them. And each one had visible injuries. A massive male had burns across his chest that looked like acid damage. A pregnant female held her swollen belly with one paw, while the other hung limp and broken. Cubs with twisted limbs sat beside their mothers. Elderly Vulcans with clouded eyes and bodies that shook from pain. They had come for help, all of them, because he had helped one small cub and one brave mother. Taiyang's communication device buzzed on his belt. He fumbled for it, his hands shaking. "Hello? Taiyang, this is Hana from Colony 7. I'm 20 minutes out. Your emergency beacon activated. What's wrong?" The voice was concerned but calm. Hana was another researcher, someone he occasionally shared data with. "I don't have an emergency," Taiyang said, looking at the crowd of Vulcans. "Well, not my emergency. I need help. Medical help. A lot of it. What are you talking about? Just get here." You'll see. When Hannah's transport landed 15 minutes later, she stepped out and froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes that usually saw everything. Right now, those eyes were wide with shock. "Taiyang, what did you do?" "I helped one," he said simply. "Now they've all come." Hannah walked slowly through the crowd of Vulcans. They watched her but didn't move. She stopped beside a young warrior with deep claw marks across his face, wounds that were infected and weeping. "They're suffering," she said quietly. "All of them." "How long have they been like this?" "I don't know. Weeks, months, maybe years for some. Their culture doesn't allow them to show weakness. They endure pain in silence. That's insane." "That's their way," Taiyang said. "But I showed them another way. Now I don't know what to do." Hannah pulled out her communication device. "I'm calling for backup. We need a real medical team." The call went to the human medical ship Sanctuary, which orbited the nearest human colony. Captain Jiho answered, his face appearing on the small screen. He was a middle-aged man with gray in his hair and a military bearing. Behind him, Taiyang could see the white walls of a medical bay. "This is Captain Jiho. What's your emergency?" "Sir, we have approximately 40 Vulcan individuals requiring medical assistance at coordinates." Hannah rattled off the numbers. "They're showing signs of severe untreated injuries, infections, and chronic conditions. We need a medical team immediately." There was a pause. Captain Jiho's expression shifted from confusion to determination. "We'll be there in 2 hours." Jiho out. The wait was difficult. Taiyang and Hannah did what they could, moving through the crowd with basic first aid. They cleaned wounds, distributed pain medication from Taiyang's limited supplies, and offered water. The Vulcans accepted their help with dignity, never complaining even when the treatment clearly hurt. The mother Vulcan, whom Taiyang had treated days before, stayed close. She seemed to be explaining things to the others, using gestures and their own language. She had become a bridge between species. When the sanctuary landed, 3 people emerged. Captain Jiho led the way, followed by a thin man with glasses carrying multiple medical cases, and a young woman with kind eyes and quick hands. The man was Dr. Minho, the ship's chief medical officer. The woman was Sora, a nurse who had worked in combat zones during the border conflicts. "Doctor," Minho looked at the gathered Vulcans and let out a long breath. "This is unprecedented. I've never treated Vulcan physiology before." "You'll learn," Taiyang said. "They need help. Then we'll help them," Captain Jiho said firmly. Sora, set up the portable medical station. Minho, start triage. Hannah, Taiyang, you're with us. Let's save some lives. The work began immediately. They set up the medical station in the clearing, a portable structure that unfolded into a sterile treatment area. Dr. Minho moved through the Vulcans, assessing each one and marking priority cases. Sora prepared equipment and medications, adapting dosages for Vulcan biology by scanning their physiology with portable sensors. Captain Jiho coordinated everything, his military training showing as he organized the chaos into something manageable. The first patient was the pregnant female. Dr. Minho examined her carefully, his scanner revealing that the cub inside was positioned wrong and causing internal bleeding. Without surgery, both would die. Minho looked at Taiyang. "I've never performed Vulcan surgery. I don't know their anatomy." "Then we figure it out together," Taiyang said. He had studied Vulcan biology in his research. It wasn't the same as treating them, but it was something. Her species has a dual circulatory system. The main vessels run here and here. He pointed to the scan. "If we can reposition the cub and stop the bleeding." They worked for 3 hours. It was delicate, terrifying work, but Dr. Minho's steady hands and Taiyang's knowledge combined into something greater than either alone. When the female Vulcan woke up, her cubs safely repositioned, she touched her head to Minho's hand in the same gesture of respect Taiyang had received. One by one, they treated the wounded. The burned warrior received skin grafts grown from his own cells. The cubs with genetic defects received gene therapy that would allow them to grow normally. The elderly with chronic pain received medications that would give them comfort for the first time in years. Each treatment was a challenge, each patient a puzzle they had to solve. But humans were good at puzzles, and they were even better at not giving up. As the second sun set, Dr. Minho sat down heavily beside Taiyang. His hands were stained with alien blood, and exhaustion lined his face. We saved 38 today. 2 are still critical. But we saved 38. You did, Taiyang said. No, Minho replied, looking at him. You did. You started this when you helped that one small cub. You showed them that healing isn't weakness. That's bigger than any medicine I can give. In the growing darkness, the Vulcans settled down to rest around the outpost. For the first time in their lives, many of them slept without pain. And in that clearing on a distant planet, something new was beginning. Something that would echo across the galaxy. 3 months changed everything. What started as a temporary medical station became permanent. Captain Jiho requisitioned more supplies and personnel from the human colonies. Dr. Minho stayed, turning down a promotion to remain on Vera 7. Sora built an entire medical wing, teaching herself alien biology through trial and error. Hana documented every treatment, creating the first comprehensive database of multi-species medicine. And Taiyang, who had only wanted to study plants and animals in peace, became something he never expected, a symbol of human compassion. The Vulcans spread the word. They were traders and travelers, moving between worlds on the frontier. In markets and spaceports and cantinas and meeting holes, they told the same story. The softskins heal without judgment. The humans ask no payment, demand no loyalty. They see suffering and they stop it, nothing more. It was a strange tale to most species, almost unbelievable. But the Vulcans showed their healed wounds, their healthy cubs, their elderly who walked without pain. The proof was undeniable. And so they came. The first non-Vulcan arrival was a Thrain soldier named Killish. The Thrains were an insectoid species, tall and thin with 4 arms and translucent wings that shimmered in the light. Killish's wings were damaged, torn, and bent, unable to fold properly against his body. He landed awkwardly in the clearing, stumbling as he tried to walk. Among his people, flight was everything. Without it, he was nothing. Exiled and abandoned. Dr. Minho examined the wings carefully. They were delicate structures, like glass and silk combined. I've never worked with Thrain physiology, he admitted. But I'll try. That's all I ask, Killish said through his translator. His compound eyes reflected the light in rainbow patterns. My people left me to die. You are my last hope. The surgery took 8 hours. Minho had to learn Thrain anatomy as he worked, mapping nerves and vessels that followed completely different patterns than any species he knew. Sora assisted, her hands steady even as she worked with structures so fragile they could tear from her breath. When it was done, when the wings were repaired and supported with biocompatible frames, Killish flexed them experimentally. They spread wide, catching the light, functional again. He made a sound like wind chimes, which his translator marked as crying. Thank you, he whispered. You gave me back my sky. After Killish came others. A Nasari child arrived with her mother. The Nasari were aquatic beings, graceful in water, but awkward on land. The child's spine was curved badly, a genetic defect that her people considered a mark of shame. In Nasari culture, the imperfect were left in the deep waters to face their fate alone. The mother had refused, carrying her daughter across 3 star systems to find the humans who healed the broken. Taiyang built a water tank for them while Dr. Menho studied Nasari biology. The surgery to correct the spine was risky, but the alternative was watching a child suffer. They succeeded. The girl, whose name translated to Pearl, swam in perfect circles in her tank, her mother singing songs of joy that sounded like ocean waves. A cyborg bounty hunter came next. Half his body was mechanical, the other half organic. His name was Dion, though he had been human once, decades ago. He had replaced so much of himself with technology that most medical facilities refused to treat him. His implants were failing, rejecting his organic parts, and the pain was constant. "I'm more machine than man," he told Dr. Minho. "Can you fix a broken robot?" "You're not a robot," Minho replied. "You're a person who needs help." They worked for days, replacing failing implants, treating infections where metal met flesh, and reprogramming systems that had gone haywire. Doyon emerged from treatment looking the same, but moving without the constant tremors that had plagued him. He stayed at the station, offering his services as security. "You saved me," he said simply. "I'll make sure others get the same chance." The medical station grew. More human doctors arrived. Suho, a surgeon specializing in trauma care. Yuna, a pediatrician who worked with the alien children. Bora, a therapist who helped patients deal with the psychological impact of their suffering. They built permanent buildings, installed advanced equipment, and created a system to handle the growing number of patients. The colony expanded from 5 people to 50, then to 100. But not everyone was happy about it. Captain Jiho received messages from the Galactic Coalition, the loose government that tried to maintain order in this sector of space. They demanded to know what the humans were doing. They questioned the legality of treating criminals and exiles. They suggested that human medicine was a form of manipulation, a way to gain influence over other species. Jiho ignored most of these messages, but he knew trouble was coming. The medical station treated them all. There were mercenaries with combat injuries that no one else would touch. Pirates who had been betrayed by their own crews. Political refugees fleeing persecution. Outcasts from 100 worlds, all seeking the same thing, a chance to be healed without judgment. The humans asked no questions about their past. A wound was a wound, pain was pain, and suffering was suffering. That was all that mattered. One evening, Taiyang sat with the Vulcan mother, whose name he had learned was Kyra. She had become the unofficial liaison between the humans and the various species that came for help. Her cub, now half-grown, played with an Asari child in the shallow pool nearby. "You've changed the galaxy," Kira said through her translator. "You know this, yes?" "We just help some people," Taiyang replied. "That's all." "No," Kyra insisted. "You showed us that strength isn't enduring pain. Strength is seeking help when you need it. You showed us that compassion exists without conditions. That is a lesson we never learned in 10,000 years. And now, because of you, hundreds live who would have died. Thousands will come. This is not small." Taiyang looked at the medical station, lit up against the night sky. He thought about that first day, when he had found a small cub caught in thorns. Such a simple thing, wrapping a bandage around a wounded paw. How could he have known it would lead to this? How could anyone have known that one act of kindness could ripple outward like waves on water, touching lives across star systems? "Maybe you're right," Taiyang said quietly. "But it doesn't change what we do. Someone comes with a wound, we heal it. That's all it ever has to be." Kira made a sound like a purr, which meant agreement. "Yes, and that simplicity is what makes you dangerous. The Coalition fears you, human. They fear that your compassion will upset the balance of power. They fear that species will follow you instead of them. They will come soon, and they will try to stop this." "Let them try," Taiyang said, surprising himself with the steel in his voice. We're not doing anything wrong. No, Kyra agreed. You're doing something right. That's what frightens them. In the distance, another ship landed, bringing more wounded. Dr. Minho and his team moved to greet them, ready to face whatever challenges came through that door. The work never stopped. The need never ended. But neither did human compassion, and that would prove to be the most powerful force in the galaxy. The warships arrived on a cold morning when the medical station was at its busiest. They descended from the clouds like metal predators, 6 coalition vessels bristling with weapons. Their engines shook the ground as they landed in a semicircle around the human complex, blocking any escape. Patients scattered in fear while the medical staff stood frozen. This was the confrontation everyone had feared. A ramp extended from the lead ship, and Ambassador Vexner emerged. He was a Korthan, a species known for bureaucracy and rigid adherence to law. His body was covered in gray scales, and his 4 eyes scanned the medical station with cold precision. Behind him marched 20 armed soldiers from various species, all wearing coalition uniforms. They formed a barrier between the ships and the medical building. Captain Jiho walked forward to meet them, his face calm despite the obvious threat. Dr. Minho, Sora, Hana, and Taiyang stood behind him. The patients Vulcans, Thrains, Nisari, and dozens of other species watched from doorways and windows. Ambassador Vexenor, Jiho said, offering a formal greeting. What brings the coalition to our medical station? You know exactly why I'm here, Captain, Vexner replied. His voice was translated into human speech, sounding mechanical and emotionless. This operation ends today. You are destabilizing the entire sector with your unauthorized medical facility. Unauthorized? Jiho's voice remained steady. We filed all proper documentation with coalition medical authorities. Documentation that was rejected, Vexner countered. You've continued operating despite our denial. Furthermore, you're harboring criminals, treating exiles, and providing aid to enemies of various coalition governments. This constitutes interference in sovereign affairs. We're treating sick and wounded individuals. Dr. Minho stepped forward, his voice sharp. That's not interference. That's medicine. You're naive if you believe that, Vexner said. Many of these patients are criminals by their own species laws. That Vulcan warrior you treated? He's wanted for desertion. The Thrain soldier? He was exiled for cowardice. The Nasari child? Her defect marks her as unfit for society. You're undermining legal and cultural systems that have existed for millennia. Legal systems that let people suffer, Sora said angrily. Cultural systems that abandon children to die. If that's your law, then your law is wrong. Vexenor's scales shifted color, a sign of irritation. You don't get to decide what's right for other species. You're forcing your human values on cultures you don't understand. This humanitarian facade is just another form of colonization. You heal them, they become grateful, they follow you. It's manipulation. That's not what this is, Taiyang said, stepping forward. His voice was quiet but firm. We're not trying to gain followers or influence. We saw people suffering, and we helped. That's all. Then you're fools, Vexner said flatly. Either way, this operation is over. My soldiers will escort your patients to coalition custody. You have 1 hour to pack your equipment and leave this planet. If you refuse, you'll be removed by force. No, the word came not from any human but from behind them. Kiri emerged from the medical building, walking with the confident stride of a predator. Behind her came more Vulcans, dozens of them, forming a line between the humans and the coalition soldiers. Kilish flew overhead, his repaired wings catching the light, joined by other Thrains who had been treated at the station. The Nazari emerged from their water tanks, standing in the open air despite their discomfort. Diane, the cyborg bounty hunter, stood with his weapons visible but not drawn. flanked by other recovered patients who looked ready to fight. Hundreds of beings, all of different species. All former patients, all standing together. They surrounded the human medical station in a protective circle. The coalition soldiers shifted nervously, their weapons uncertain. This wasn't what they expected. Kira spoke, her translator broadcasting her words to everyone. You will not touch them. You will not shut down this place. These humans did what none of you would do. They healed us without asking for anything in return. Stand down, Vexner ordered. You're interfering with coalition authority. Your authority abandoned us, Kalish said, landing beside Kira. When I was injured, my own people exiled me. When I came here, these humans fixed me. They gave me back my life. I owed them everything. My daughter was left to die, the Nasari mother said, her voice like singing waves. The humans saved her. They asked no questions, demanded no payment. They simply healed her because she was hurt. Other voices joined in, a chorus of testimonies from beings across the galaxy. Each one told the same story: rejection by their own species, acceptance by the humans, healing without judgment. The pattern was clear. The humans hadn't manipulated anyone. They had simply been kind when kindness was needed. Vexner looked frustrated. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You've created loyalty through medical treatment. These beings are indebted to you. No. Taiyang walked forward until he stood between the coalition and his patients. They're not indebted. They're grateful. There's a difference. We didn't help them to gain power or influence. We helped them because they were suffering, and we could do something about it. Why? Vexner demanded. Why do you care about aliens who aren't your responsibility? Taiyang thought about that question. He thought about Earth's history, about wars and plagues and disasters. He thought about how humans had developed medicine not just for their own survival, but because they couldn't stand to see others suffer. He thought about that small Vulcan cub caught in thorns, and how impossible it had been to walk away. Because we're human, Taiyang said simply. It's what we do. We see someone in pain, and we help. It doesn't matter if they're human or alien, friend or stranger, innocent or guilty. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering. And we can't just ignore it, even when logic says we should. That's not manipulation, Ambassador. That's compassion. And if your coalition can't tell the difference, then maybe the coalition is the problem. Silence fell over the clearing. The coalition soldiers looked at each other uncertainly. Even Vexner seemed at a loss for words. He had come with warships and authority, expecting to shut down a rogue human operation. He hadn't expected to face hundreds of beings willing to defend that operation with their lives. Captain Jiho spoke into the silence. Ambassador, we're not your enemies. We're not trying to destabilize anything. We're just doctors and scientists trying to help people who need it. If that threatens your authority, maybe you should ask why. Maybe you should wonder why so many beings would rather come to a small human medical station than to any coalition facility. Vexner looked at the crowd surrounding the humans. He looked at the medical station, simple but functional. He looked at faces from dozens of species, all unified in their defense of the humans who had helped them. Finally, he looked at Taiyang, the young researcher who had started all of this with one simple act of kindness. I need to consult with coalition leadership, Vexner said stiffly. He turned and walked back to his ship, his soldiers following. The warships lifted off, hovering, but not leaving. For 3 hours, they waited in the sky while Vexner made his decision. When he returned, his scales had changed color again, this time to a shade that indicated reluctant acceptance. The Coalition Council has granted you Healer Sanctuary status, he announced. This facility is now recognized as neutral territory. You may continue operations, but you will submit to regular inspections and maintain strict records of all patients. That's acceptable, Captain Jiho said, relief evident in his voice. Don't misunderstand, Vexner continued. The Council fears what you represent. Humans with your level of compassion and medical skill are dangerous to the established order. But they also recognize that shutting you down would cause more problems than allowing you to continue. Many beings have already come here. Stopping that flow would create unrest across multiple sectors. We'll take it, Dr. Minho said. Sanctuary status is enough. Vexner looked at Taiyang one more time. You wrapped a bandage around a cub's paw. Such a small thing. Such a simple act. How could you know it would lead to this? I didn't, Taiyang admitted. I just saw a creature in pain, and I helped. That's all it ever was. That's what makes you dangerous, Vexner said. You don't seek power, but power comes to you anyway. You don't demand loyalty, but you earn it. You don't conquer through strength, but through kindness. In all my years of diplomacy, I've never seen anything quite like it. The coalition ships departed, leaving behind peace. The patients cheered, celebrating their victory. The medical staff hugged each other, relieved and exhausted. And Taiyang sat on the steps of the medical building, watching the purple forest where this had all begun. Kyra sat beside him, her cub now nearly full-grown lying contentedly at her feet. What will you do now? She asked. The same thing I've always done, Taiyang said. Someone will come with a wound. I'll heal it. It's that simple. Nothing is simple anymore, Kyra said. Word has spread across the galaxy. More will come, hundreds, thousands. Your medical station will grow into a city. Your name will be known on 100 worlds. Maybe, Taiyang said. But it doesn't change what matters. Every person who comes through that door is just someone who needs help. That's all I need to remember.